Tommy Curran on the Harbor One Hotline. Tommy, good afternoon. How are you?
What's up, boys? I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm very curious for your thoughts about the name Josh McDaniels coming up in all of this after yesterday's meeting between Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, and now today there's some stuff out there about, of all people, Josh McDaniels. And to Fourier and I, it was like, wow, he's in the house on Sunday. That's a little odd. And then you hear his name mentioned on Monday and Tuesday. What do you make of this, Tommy?
Well, I think Josh's name has been attached to the Patriots really for weeks, ever since he was let go by the Raiders. And I wouldn't necessarily equate his being there, living in the area, almost the immediate area, and going to the game with his family on Sunday as being any harbinger of interest. But I do think that Josh would absolutely be happy to have any conversations about coming back to the Patriots at this point. But I think that really he and anyone who would be entertaining thoughts of returning would need to see things settle out before he was going to inject himself into the conversation. So, like everyone else, the Krafts have to either follow through on the decision they made or establish that they've changed their minds, and under what circumstances they've changed their minds. What was Bill Belichick's pitch to have them change their minds, and what did he give up? So, to me, it's certainly a waiting game. Josh, does it make sense? He's talented. Nobody got more out of Mac Jones than Josh did, and he's still under contract, Mac Jones is, even though he might be beyond salvaging here in New England. But you also have Bill O'Brien on staff, and I can't imagine him being one and done given the commitment made to him.
Yeah, Tom, it is. I guess I'm assuming that do you believe that the longer this goes on, that the more likelihood it is that he stays, that it's Bill Belichick, that is?
Yeah, not necessarily, Christian, because there was a lot of talk yesterday about leverage and who has it and who's employing it. And I think the general sense was that, well, Bill Belichick has leverage, he has a contract. And really, doesn't the leverage go to who has what the other person wants? The Krafts have the job. If they don't want Bill, they can say, okay, we understand the amount of money we owe you is significant, but we have what you want. So I think the Krafts have the leverage. Additionally, while this process, as people from NFL media reported last month, could take several weeks, and Bill indicated several meetings yesterday, the longer it goes and the more seats fill up, the less leverage Bill has, one would think. If this was a leverage play anyway, I just don't think that leverage enters into it. If you're the Krafts, you either say, we're moving on, and you're doing so. It's a poop or get off the pot situation.
Well, and that,
really is what we're looking at.
Yeah, and Tommy, I think that's why there is all of this discussion, because look, I think if the Krafts want to move on, they're trying to do it either paying as little money as possible or trying to get something out of Bill. And if Bill just flat out refuses and say, pay me my $25 million, that's where the Krafts really have to be convicted in what they're trying to do, or have conviction in what they're trying to do. And that's the part that I'm struggling with, because if this was made up a while ago, I know there would be a process. But what in the hell is Robert Kraft so afraid of? If this is easy pickings, if the decision has been made so long ago, unfortunately, I'm left here trying to figure out what in the world is Robert Kraft afraid of, or is going through his head, where it isn't just rip the Band-Aid off, write the guy the check, and move on from there. And I think that's why we've kind of landed in this place, because what is the objective for the Kraft family in all this?
Yeah, I think it is also worth noting, and to myself as well, it is only Tuesday. It's not even 48 hours since kickoff of the final game of the season. And I do think that there was a belief within the organization that we're not doing anything on Black Monday. We're not going to, leave Bill Belichick at the end of the curb along with Ron Rivera and Art Smith. So I think that it's not that slow at this point, and I think that hearing Bill out, considering the Krafts and Belichick did not have a long discussion during the season about what Bill's vision was So give him the opportunity now to do so. How cogent is that vision? How much does that vision talk about, hey, let's bring the band back together? I don't know any team that recycles quite like the Patriots recycle, whether it's players or coaches or ideas. But because of their success, they continue to recycle, when the bottom line is it might not be the ideas and the people. It might have been one guy who left who led to the consistent performance. So it's that decision has to be made. But, as I have mentioned many times, and as I mentioned in October, when news of Bill Belichick's new contract came out, that Bill still had to produce. The last year of the contract would not be an impediment to the Crafts making a decision. I reported that at that time, and I would believe that still to ultimately be the case. Whether you're talking about money owed or draft pick compensation, you're exactly right. If you don't want Bill Belichick to coach here anymore, you can't say, "Oh, we didn't get those things. Oh, we have to pay too much money. Just bring him back." That is the opposite of what would be good for the football team if you believe, as ownership, that you should make a move.
So, Tommy Curran, on the Harbor One hotline, you mentioned something earlier about spots drying up for Bill, and you were talking about leverage. And I sit there and go, well, if the Crafts, want to hire somebody outside of the building, well, they can't mess around with the timing also, because those interviews are already taking place, mm-hmm. and other agents are jockeying for their clients, unless their just safety spot is Jerod Mayo. And that kind of gives them a little bit more, time, because, hell, listen, if we want this guy, but if we don't get him, fine, we'll just take Jerod Mayo. Do you think that has something to do with it also?
Yeah, but you make it sound like it's a consolation or booby prize as opposed to their plan. I mean, when you look at what they said last January in announcing that they were in contract negotiations to keep Jerod, and then what Roberts said to NFL Network in March, that he certainly would be in consideration to be a successor and that he could be one of the heir apparents. I don't think that he's, in case of emergency break glass. It seems to me to be their plan.
Then why?
Hold on, but I never know with Tom. Like, sometimes he stops and he keeps going.
I know.
And then I jump over him. And this time it was a full stop. So I was like,
I
pausing.
felt like I was done there.
No, but yeah, and I would say it does feel like a consolation prize. It feels like, okay, because I think the other possible candidates that they can get that can come in here and win right away without any, first-time coaching issues would be a better alternative than Jerod Mayo. Not that I don't like him. I don't think he could be good.
No, of course not.
But I do think...
You're shooting it straight. Everybody keeps having to do these qualifiers when speaking about Jerod, and we've done it on our shows too. And I'm like, look, we all like the guy from having worked with him, covered him, spent time with him, or understood his accomplishments as a coach, which is most important, and his aptitude. But yeah, there should be trepidation because this is a year earlier than anticipated. The two contracts, Bills and Jerod's were set to both expire after the 2024 season. The ineptitude of the team on the field this year has accelerated the succession plan, so that we're now sitting here in the second week of January talking about whether or not Jerod is in a position to make that move.
Yeah, because I think that
it's all accelerated.
I think that he part of the reason they placed him in there, just like they did. I'm going to show you my whole world, the whole Josh McDaniels situation. That being a proactive thinker, thinking in advance and the potential problems you may have with Bill and his contract and the season is, well, let's make sure we have somebody there just in case this thing gets squirrely. We like him, we trust him. And in case we don't get the guy we want, we'll settle for Jerod Mayo, and we'll make it look like he was our choice all along. That's my take on that.
Yeah, but no one ever expected 4 wins. No one ever expected 4 wins.
No,
so
I don't.
That's why it's accelerated.
That's fine.
I guess if they were a 6 or 7 win team this year, and you said, "Screw it, we're bringing Bill back." If I had reported, a month ago that the Crafts are bringing Bill back, then there would be an outcry in the other direction, but it would be acknowledged, well, he's going to be done after 2024, and the intention would be Mayo. I just don't think that as you look at this, there has not been an inclination by the organization as a whole to want to break ties with the Belichick DNA.
There we go. And that's where, because if they loved Mayo that much, there still is that Belichick DNA in there. Rip the Band-Aid off, make the move, da-da-da. And then it kind of signals to everyone, all right, Jerod Mayo doesn't feel like the consolation prize in all of this. And Fourier even rolled out, Tommy, the last dance scenario. And I know there would be no Tom Brady to play the role of Michael Jordan, but you get the reference, in which you maybe announce it. Hey, here's what's going to happen. Almost like what Belichick had with Parcells, which he didn't like and then ran from. Like, oh my God, it's a freaking Fruity Whip headache trying to figure this out.
And that's, unfortunately, I think where you end up with if the Crafts end up saying, okay, all the ultimatums that we've put out there for the last 3 years and the fact that we said we need to make the playoffs and you have to produce and this is a business and it's measured in wins. If you bring Bill back and the whole planet knows he's on his final year as a head coach, he's obviously a lame duck. How does he work in that situation? How does he work with his successor in Jerod Mayo next to him? How is that relationship between those two individuals? Because we know that it wasn't great with Bill and Bill back in 1999 and 2000. How did Bill and Jerod work well together going forward? So there's so much that goes into this, plus the fiefdoms that exist within this organization because so many individuals have been brought back and recycled, whether it's Patricia or Joe Judge or on down the line. You know, fiefdoms get established and the backbiting continues. Do you want to go through another year of that? Could Bill sit there at some point this week and say, look, hey, I get the nature of things. I get what happened this year. Let's just go into next year, and I'm going to be the happiest guy you've ever met. Are they buying on that? It seems like a stretch. And so I wonder what a lame duck Bill Belichick season would feel like for the organization going into 2024.
Yeah, this thing is a mess, to say the least. Tommy Curran of NBC Sports Boston with us.
It's a beautiful mess.
Well, I don't know about that either.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've got to be investigating this as much as you've ever investigated anything. Is trying to figure out, Tom, like what's going on and when it's going to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Brady stuff was intense. Deflategate was incredibly intense. Spygate was intense. The 9 Super Bowl appearances have been intense. It's all been intense. But this is, when we talk about, and I'm just writing something now, this isn't just football and Patriot history. It's NFL history. It's American history. He's transcended. Bill has the culture in a way that Brady has as well, but he's transcended organizational and corporate culture, and he's become an emblematic of so many things to so many people that it's as big an effing deal as you can find for this organization.
Schwarzkopf at Belichick. History 202 at CCRI or something. Tommy Curran of NBC Sports Boston. Tom, thanks. We'll hear you Thursday with Jones and Mago.
All right, guys. Thanks for the time.
All right, there we go.
There's a class there somewhere.
Here's where I just
what
if removing Bill Belichick is so important, or getting Jerod Mayo in the chair is so important. Does $25 million really matter that much to the Crafts? Because is that not the biggest? It's either one of two. It's either Robert Kraft is in his feels and can't bring himself to move on, or they're sitting there going, we're not writing this guy a check to go leave and maybe pants us. You can't have it both ways.
There's no way this is. Okay, we got a break.
You want to pick it up?
There is something that I think Roger Goodell would have an issue with.
Oh, all right then. We will get to that. We've also got to get to Chris Sale. You know what? We were going to do that next. I have a funny.
That's fine. Mine will take a second.
No. I have a funny feeling this conversation is percolating because is $25 million that important that we're going to jack around with letting someone go, moving someone in? All of the hullabaloo, all the hoops you got to jump through to interview other people and all that kind of stuff? Is $25 million that important that we're going to delay this potentially? or wait and just handing it over to the people that are already working there anyway.